lecturer, I don't always stand behind the mic, so please forgive me if I waver away from the podium. I am from the City of Cape Town. I'm the Manager, Infrastructure and Planning in a directorate called Corporate Services. And just to give you some overview, I grew up in this beautiful city. I grew up on the Cape Flats of Cape Town. My dad was a building inspector, and during the school holidays, I used to go to construction sites with him. That was before occupational health and safety was quite strict. I was about a 12-year-old wandering around new schools that were being built by Public Works, and I instinctively noticed that these new schools were quite different from the school I went to. I went to a school with open walkways. We got rained on in winter. The wind blew and got us sick. We had no school hall. We used to have our assemblies via the intercom into our class. But I knew at that stage that I wanted to change the face of the Cape Flats so that all children like me could have better infrastructure. And that's what drove my beginning of my career. I'm trained as an architect. And I think my link to digital twins and to BIM models is because I've constantly been looking at how do we improve infrastructure in a context where we've got aging buildings, where we've got decreasing budgets and possibly too few professionals to be able to do the work. So why did digital twins matter? Why was that something that we thought was important? So what we did was we started by looking at our facilities management department and how digital twins could actually improve the world for everyone in that department. So it started off by looking at BIM models and as architects and engineers thinking about how we could actually improve efficiency. But it was necessary to look beyond just the built form. We started to engage our colleagues who do security services, and they were looking for the ability to detect certain security challenges and to be able to manage security data. My colleagues who manage citizen interface, so we've got people that come into the municipal buildings to pay their revenue accounts, they needed to know how they could improve their operations for the citizens. The other thing that we battle with is being able to maintain and respond to infrastructure faults as quickly as possible. So that was another area we wanted to improve on. We have colleagues who are, on this slide we call them internal control, but essentially they're tenders and contracts. They needed to know the size of our buildings. They needed to know what the buildings looked like so that the tenders that they put out could be of a better quality. Our occupational health and safety colleagues wanted to know how many people were in the building. They needed to know air quality. And there was another group that were manually tagging assets and verifying assets, thousands of assets in a year. And they wanted to see, is there a way for them to improve efficiency in their space? So we just broke it down to 5 areas of where we wanted to find efficiencies in a digital twin. So we wanted to enhance our decision making because we wanted to use real-time data to be able to guide us in terms of how we managed our portfolio. We wanted to be able to reduce risks, and we wanted essentially, and that's why we put it in the middle, we wanted essentially to bring a better service to our clients and our customers, but we also wanted to be way more efficient in what we were doing. And so that led us to look through our portfolio and decide which building we were actually going to use as a pilot. And interestingly, the debates around which building to use took a lot longer than actually determining the benefits of a digital twin. We were one day reviewing a project, and we noticed that this particular project, I saw the drawings looked as if they actually could have been drawn in 3D, and so we thought, well, this is a good project to start off with because the other consultants have done a 3D drawing. So we chose a building that was medium size. It couldn't be too big because else we knew we would fail. It couldn't be too small, else it wouldn't have the complexity we needed. We also identified a building that needed to be refurbished, so using a building where we could actually get drawings that would help us in future projects. and also a building where we were testing whether we actually needed to expand, but we wanted to use data to determine whether that building actually needed to become bigger. We also found a building that needed a compliance upgrade. For the City of Cape Town, compliance is vitally important. If we bring in the public into our buildings, we bring our staff in there, we need to know that it's safe for them to work in those environments. We also wanted something that had diverse typologies within it. So we chose the Belleville Municipal Building, and I'll show you some images of it. So what did our digital twin journey look like? In July through to November 2024, the City of Cape Town undertook a number of benchmarking visits to Smart Cities conferences, to the Finnish government, to try and understand what were other government entities doing in terms of digital twins. Then we wrote a concept note that was in Jan 25, and we started to do quite robust stakeholder mapping. And we didn't do it in a very mechanical way. We did it with a perspective of change management. So we actually sat for days, speaking to colleagues, understanding what their issues are, understanding where they're at, and understanding how a digital twin could benefit them. Because if we didn't have upfront buy-in, we knew this project was going to fail. So I'll fast forward a bit. The City of Cape Town had a partnership with the Finnish government. We got a grant from the Finnish government. It was the Digitization and Green Transition Grant. And that grant meant that the Finnish government supported the City of Cape Town in our digitization journey. They sent an expert to Cape Town. I think he came on 4 occasions for about 2 weeks at a time. And he guided us in terms of developing a strategy. And we wanted a strategy that wasn't going to be theoretical. We wanted something very practical. And we wanted something that was going to give us results in short time frames. We didn't want a 5-year project. We wanted to be able to show results within a year. So where we are today, we have drawn up one of our buildings, and I'll quickly flip through what it looks like. So this is the building that we've drawn up in 3D. And we've begun to put in technology in the building that will be able to give us real-time reporting for the performance of that building. For our infrastructure teams, for maintenance planning, we've gone into quite significant detail around what the building contains so that we could improve our maintenance firstly. I want to flick through, you probably have better looking BIM models than we do, but I want to get to quite an important part of our talk, and that's the lessons learned. I know that there was much criticism that we had partnered with the Finnish government and questions around why didn't we make contact with local professionals to assist us. What was quite important was that we needed to partner with another government organization that had gone through exactly what we had gone through, that was willing to share the lessons learned so we didn't have to pay the school fees. You know, in a South African context, money isn't just lying around. So we needed to be quite cognizant of how we spent funding. And so there were very important lessons that we could learn. The partnerships were vitally important. You cannot go on this journey alone. The other thing that was quite important was that our strategy had to be very robust. I mentioned before, it couldn't be theoretical. We had to start with the end in mind. We had to know what did we want, so that we could actually reach that goal. The other important part was that we needed to know what skills we had in-house. We could do this fancy model, and at the end of the project, no one would know what to do with it. And I think there are many examples of that, and we didn't want that failure. So what we started to do was doing an assessment of what skills we had in-house. We started to ask teams who's interested in digitization. And so we took quite a number of staff with us on this journey with our technical experts so that we could not only get a grant that was giving us a strategy, but we were also getting a number, and it was probably about 20 to 30 people who were being taught by this technical expert. The other thing that was important was change management. When we started this project, there were a number, and sadly they were infrastructure professionals who said to us, no, BIM models don't work, we don't want to use digital twins. There was so much negativity. And we had to change that thinking to make sure that we could take people along with us. Because if we didn't have the whole organization going along with us, we knew we'd have project failure. But the other thing that was more important is that we needed to make sure that the information was easily accessible to a range of people and not just infrastructure people. So interestingly, the person who has taken up the most benefit out of our digital twin project is the person that does asset management. So assets being our chairs and other movable assets. The guy that has to manually every year check that every chair is still in that building. He is now able to automatically get that data. So it saves so much time, and it means that his team can look at other projects. The other very valuable thing was, and Fabio mentioned it, when we built BIM models, and when I did it as a professional, we did it mostly for our design processes. But the duration of the project, of the construction, of the design, is quite short compared to the life of that building. And so for us, there was great power in a digital twin because it meant that as a city, we had this aging asset, but we knew what was in it, we knew when it had to be maintained, and we also knew how we could manipulate the drawing to our needs. So a digital twin has great power for the whole life cycle of the building. The other thing that was important was how we led the project. We made sure that it was a team of diverse skill sets. So I'm trained as an infrastructure professional. I led the project, but with me was a team. There was an IT expert, two of them actually, and there were a range of other people with different skill sets. And it was important for us to prevent project fatigue, that we regularly met, and we met for coffee. And we didn't look at the presentation, and we didn't look at the strategy. We checked in to see how are we doing, where are we going, what are the challenges we're facing. And project fatigue, especially when you're dealing with something so technical, comes up quite early. And that's how your project fails. So it was important that we had diverse skill sets and that we were regularly checking in. The other thing was the meaningful engagement. It's important to not just engage for the sake of engaging and to say, yes, I spoke to so-and-so, and yes, I spoke. The engagement must be meaningful. You must actually hear those people. So we went back old school, and we met people in the office. No Teams meetings. We could sense if there was any resistance, and that was quite important for us. What are our future opportunities? So ultimately, where we're wanting to go is to have a predictive and optimized facilities management. We're wanting our maintenance we're wanting to have predictive maintenance and real-time data that we can use and manipulate. That is our 3 to 5 year plan. Our partnership with the Finnish government has come to an end, and the city is looking at how do we institutionalize digital twins so that those 20 people that were trained up during the process are able to carry this project ahead and scale it across the city. My time's running up and running out. What I wanted to leave with you. Harambee means coming together with a greater purpose, and I think that's why we're all here today. And I think those of you in the room have a really powerful position that you may not realize. And I haven't spoken in greater depth about our digital twin, and I'm happy to speak to you about it outside of the lecture or the speaking sessions. But you have the ability to undertake the following things within your area of influence. You can influence your clients to make better decisions by sharing with them the technology that is often hidden away in your office. You can recommend technology that will revolutionize how infrastructure is planned and more especially how it is maintained in a South African context. You can demonstrate the value add and benefits, and you can be connectors for change. And you can showcase what's possible. The slide says, what does this mean for built environment agents? And I've scratched out agents because you're not agents. You are change makers. You're not just a construction company. You're not just a software service provider. You're not just an architect or an engineer. You're not just a government employee. You're not just a lecturer. You are a change maker for future generations in South Africa. And you need to take up your place in those spaces to drive how your clients are going to use BIM models and how they are going to use digital twins. That power sits within this room. Thank you very much.